Hey crypto traders, checking in on the current scenario. And before we get into it, again, I talked about it last video. I'm going to talk about it every video as long as it is this significant correlation to the S&P 500. This is the 15-minute time frame. This is Bitcoin at the bottom, these candles, and this is the S&P 500 on the other candles. The correlation is extremely significant on a daily basis. We're doing the same thing. And right now, in my opinion, that tells me that it is the S&P 500 that is guiding what Bitcoin is doing. And I say it's that way around because of the dollar volume of trillions of dollars being traded in the S&P 500, whereas we're having, I don't know if it's tens of millions or hundreds of millions or what in crypto, but it's way, 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 way less. Can't even compare it. So the dollar volume in the S&P 500 is the driving force, in my opinion, and this correlation will break, but I don't know when. We're going to continue watching it. Here it is on the hourly time frame. Again, they're just doing the same thing. Over the weekend is when that correlation breaks because obviously we stopped trading with the S&P 500 and the broader markets. But since Sunday night, it has been extremely significant. This is the hourly time frame. So have to keep an eye on it. Where Bitcoin stands, I like the 12-hour time frame for clarity. And it's just a tightening range, equilibrium. High 7,200, low of 65.55. We set a lower high at 7,000, and we're looking for a higher low compared to 65.55. We will look for this pattern to break if we get a higher low, probably right at the end of the week on Friday. But we'll take it one day at a time. On the daily time frame, if we get a bear break of that 12-hour pattern, we're still pulling back, and the weekly consolidation will remain underway. It's just barely starting at this point. Not much bear follow through. All about the 12-hour pattern as to whether or not the bears can get follow through. If that 12-hour equilibrium breaks bullish, the bulls are going to have high hopes of a weekly bull flag. One thing to note, with the correlation to the S&P 500 being so notable, is that the S&P 500 has not started weekly consolidation. So whenever I'm looking at correlations, I can say, okay, well, what's going to happen to Bitcoin when the S&P 500 does see more significant daily consolidation? We have not lost the daily uptrend in SPY. And what happens when weekly consolidation begins? Does that mean that Bitcoin pulls back further because it's already started pulling back? That's something that we have to be watching for. Bitcoin dominance chart, still doing nothing. No information given the last 6 days, and we have to break 64.56 or 65.84 in order to get information from this chart. So this tells me that pretty much Bitcoin and the altcoins are neck and neck with each other with where we currently stand. ETH, tightening range as well. If you look at the 12-hour time frame, just as a comparison to Bitcoin, we've got a similar setup, but holding on a bit better. High, low, lower high. Anything above 149.70 is a higher low. So 12-hour, multiple resistances, one support level, and bulls hoping to form a new support level for a 12-hour higher low. And the ETH BTC chart, daily time frame higher low is set, and 237 is the highest move we've seen, highest level we've seen on this move, and that is the most important short-term resistance. If that level breaks, the daily uptrend continues, and the weekly chart will not be topping out yet. We know we're looking for a weekly lower high compared to 2851. In order to set that in the near term, we would have to fail 237 and then lose our daily supports. If we break 237, the bounce continues, and the uptrend on the daily will be our guide as to when our weekly lower high is set, just like it was on Bitcoin before Bitcoin lost the daily uptrend to set the weekly lower high. LTC, so for everybody, I'm just going to pull up the 12-hour time frame to see what does it look like compared to Bitcoin. High, low, lower high. Bulls must hold 39.50 for a higher low. Two short-term resistances, one support. Bulls trying to establish the second support. XRP, 12-hour time frame, same scenario. Higher low on XRP is a bit more convincing. Higher low is trying to form at 18.18. Bulls have to break 19.02 for a clear bull break. Link, different setup. So Link is still in the daily uptrend. Anything above 295 is a daily higher low. We just bounced off of 308. Bulls have to change the 4-hour trend back in their favor for the daily higher low to be established. and anything under 366 would just be a lower high. With the size of the pullback from this daily resistance, if I'm a bear on Link, I'm looking for a bounce, for a 12-hour lower high to form, and for a top fishing entry with 366 resistance. So let's say we bounce on this 12-hour chart and get up to the low 340s. Maybe that's enough risk to reward for me to begin scaling in and put that stop in place, because again, no weekly consolidation underway on Link at this point, but keeping an eye out to see if the bulls are going to lose momentum, if we're going to see further weekly consolidation in the crypto space as a whole. BNB very notably stands out bullish. A couple developments, and most recently you just got the email that they're going to have OTC, over-the-counter trading, on their platform now. So it's working to keep the chart stronger than most. Daily uptrend still intact. Anything above 1347 will just be a daily high or low. We broke resistance yesterday, so the weekly bounce is still going. We have not topped out yet until we lose the daily uptrend. And at this point, the bears are going to be watching for a potential head and shoulders, but I would have to see a lot more pullback on this 12-hour chart for the neckline to get closer to 1347. If I'm going to start looking for a head and shoulders, going to need a pullback here to the mid to lower $14 range at least, and then we would look for a right shoulder to form. But that's pretty premature in looking for that pattern at this point. XTZ USD. Daily time frame is tightening up, so the 12 hour is going to look a little bit different. We don't have that same setup. Well, you could say, if we're looking at it just here, you could say we have the same setup as Bitcoin. So a high, low, lower high. Bulls have to hold 186 for a higher low to form. The difference in this chart is that this equilibrium that's the same as Bitcoin, the last 6 or 7 candles, is occurring above a support level from the preceding action. And if we look at Bitcoin on the 12 hour, its tightening range over the last 6, 7 candles is not forming above any support from the preceding action. So that alone has it standing out a little bit stronger. It's doing the same thing in the short term, but it's coming from a bit stronger of a starting point. BCH USD, 12-hour time frame, a little bit weaker it looks like, but still the same tightening range. Everybody's tightening up. Look for a spike in volume to indicate a break, and a spike in volatility is coming. 229 is resistance. Bulls must hold 216 for the higher low to form. Very clear lower highs over the past 2 days. And BSV also extremely tight. 12 hour. Everybody's doing the same thing as Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's doing the same thing as SPY. And I was just triggered into a SPY short to top fish the high of the day. We'll see how that goes. Hope you all have a good rest of your day. Do good things. Keep an eye on the 12-hour time frame. Keep an eye on the S&P 500. Keep an eye on the Bitcoin correlation every day. If you are actively trading the cryptocurrency space, every day you should be checking in twice a day at least and say, are we still correlating to the S&P 500? And if you are actively trading, then you need to be aware of what the S&P 500 is doing. Thanks again. See you soon. So in this bed, I did transplants of kale and chard and collard greens for the first generation to be older, and those will be ready first, and then have a bit of succession planting with direct seeded coming up behind them. I'm leaving these this thick because there are flea beetles that are taking a bite out of all of them. So I sprayed neem oil all over it, which is a, what is it? Not an insecticide, it is a neurotoxin for insects. So they eat it and they forget to eat and they forget to mate, and that helps prevent from further generations continuing to eat it. And I'm leaving it this thick, so pretty much it's going to outpace being eaten, and the biggest and strongest ones that are the less eaten are the ones that I will keep, and I'll thin everything else out and have a second generation of these greens here. This kale is still going. This is kale from last year that overwintered. Got some dill sprouts coming up and some cilantro over there. This is arugula that's flowering pretty soon. I'll pull out all this arugula and make space for basil. These are some multicolored spinach, which I've never grown before, but they're certainly interesting. Bunch of lettuce, thinning that as they get bigger as well, and just eating the fairly big seedlings, but there's too many. And this is the bigger lettuce and the bigger spinach. About time to start having daily salads. Plum trees settling in nicely. I think that's going to be a good spot for it.